I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into The Locker Room. Thank you for joining me today. If you are new, welcome into the program. If you are returning, welcome back, Locker Room faithful. Before we get started, make sure you're following The Locker Room on our social media, TLR Podcast 615. That is TLR Podcast 615. Make sure to check out the debut of That's Life with Jacob. That is That's Life with Jacob on social media. It's a lot of fun. So I got two podcasts going, but you're in the locker room right now, so let's get started. This episode is brought to you by FNX Fitness. Go to fnxfit.com, that is fnxfit.com, for all of your gym needs. From clothing to supplements to pre-workout, post-workout recoveries to every single thing gear-wise you could ever need, FNX Fitness has you covered. Use your promo code TLRHOST. That is TLRHOST, all capitals, and I will give you 15% off your first purchase. So change your gym life and use FNX Fitness today, and go ahead and use that promo code, 15% off your first order. So often on the show, I trash a lot of these sports analysts. I trash a lot of the sports media, and for good reason. And someone gave me a really good idea. They said, list my top 5 sports analysts, like my most hated sports analysts. I think that's the way I read it. I prepared my most hated sports analysts, my top 5. And these are people that I grew up with, so if I don't pull somebody out from 1950, because I'm sure there's going to be someone being like, you didn't know about Charles Johnson, he was a, yeah, I mean, like, these are people that I grew up with that I absolutely can't stand. I'll tell you where my hatred, and I've told this story a couple different times on the podcast before. The reason I started a sports podcast was I was just fed up with sports media. You see what sports media does, and I get it. Sports media is the newspaper for sports. Their sole job is to give you headlines. Their sole job is to get you to debate with your buddies online. Their sole job is to get you to vote on their Instagram pages. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm a part of sports media now, I get that. But their sole job is to just be headline chasers. They have to make sure that you're paying attention to the first game for the Los Angeles Lakers and the 83rd game for the Los Angeles Lakers. So each night has all these massive stakes. Every night we've got to be dramatic. Every night there's got to be this big headline. Is LeBron James washed up? Is Tom Brady finally done? Blah, 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 blah. You've heard the thing. You know the thing. That's right. It's another Biden reference just because I had some lady write me last week, and it's so fun to watch it happen. But, I mean, like, it drives me up a wall that we overreact to every little thing. Now, I will admit, I do believe the NFL does a much better job, especially the NFL pregame shows. Terry Bradshaw, Michael Strahans of the world, like, those groups are very, very entertaining. And the NBA has an incredible group. The NBA on TNT with Shaq, Charles, Kenny, that whole group, Ernie, that is one of the, if not the best collection of entertainment to athlete to analytics that's out there. NBA on TNT, the Sunday morning kickoff shows are my two favorite shows. They're awesome. And what sports media has to do is sports media has to take notes. I mean, the problem is sports media is Alabama uniforms. They are old, they're traditional, they stick with the traditions, and that's why you have a lot of overblown, obnoxious, just drug through the mud sports analysts out there. Everybody's got a show now, everybody's got a podcast, and listen, I understand what side of that equation I fall on, so I definitely understand. But the reason I started a sports podcast is I was tired of every single game having to mean something so insane. I really try and keep everything grounded on the podcast. If you looked at my NFL top 10 power rankings last week, the whole show was about that. If not, go check it out right now. I mean, I don't try and blow things out of proportion. I had several of you, and I get a lot of my fan base is from Nashville, but I had several of you wanting to know why I didn't put the Tennessee Titans all the way up at number 1. The Tennessee Titans are the best team in the NFL right now, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, an argument can be made this week that the Tennessee Titans are the best team in the NFL and should be number 1 in my power rankings. But, let's be honest about some things. I'm not going to overreact, and I'm going to try and do a good job of keeping my head on my shoulders, keeping a level head. Because that's the exact same thing that I'm fighting against, which is sports media. People that overreact, try and chase headlines. And it drives me crazy. I mean, literally, I can say that there's one particular analyst, and I'll get to him in just a second. I don't want to give away his name, that literally drove me to start my podcast. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I was every morning bashing my head against the kitchen table, just going, how is there no one that I can listen to? And that's why guys like Pat McAfee, that's why these podcasts are starting to do so much better than these ESPNs and Sports Centers, the after hours, the pre-shows, because they suck. They're headline chasers. They have to squeeze in, 10 headlines into an hour program. Like I said, First Things First in the Morning with Nick Wright is probably the best one. Colin Cowherd's pretty decent, but Colin Cowherd can get on my nerves a little bit, and, he doesn't bring a whole lot of interesting guests up on the podcast, or on the show, excuse me. But besides a few analysts that I enjoy, the analysts themselves, the shows are so predictable, boring crap. And so, like I said, you hear me complain about it all the time on the podcast. I mean, I said it probably 3 times last week, how much I can't stand sports media. And that's why I had to listen to this listener. They said, hey, name your top 5 they said name your top 5 analysts. I don't know if that was most hated, most liked. I'm assuming it's most liked, but I went with most hated because that's a lot more. I mean, let's be honest. People like to hear people complain and hate on things more than they like to have them praise them. And if you're like, no, I love, you're a liar, okay? You like when people are hating on stuff, and it seems like that's what I like to do in my life. So, and if you want to hear me complain about more things, go over to That's Life with Jacob. Debuts Wednesday. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways, let's get into my top 5 most hated analysts of all time. At number 5, give me Max Kellerman. See, Max Kellerman, I think, is a very good and did a great job at the Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder trilogy fight. He is a very good boxing analyst. That's honestly what his bread and butter was, what he started out in, is he was a great boxing analyst. And he fits the boxing mold. Boxing is very much a boring commentary, boring pre-fight show, boring post-fight show. It's run by the old, boring white people of boxing. Let's be honest here. I can say that. I'm white, okay? But it is. Boxing is run like it's like baseball. It's the main voice of boxing is boring as some grumpy ass old white guy. The main voice of baseball is some grumpy ass old white guys, and that's why those sports continually die in TV ratings. For the simple fact that I've talked about this, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you have to be innovative. You have to keep things exciting. You have to bring in more exciting commentary. You have to make the show more exciting. And instead, they put on the same boring product. I call it the Alabama effect. You put out the same boring product, and yeah, it might hit your quota numbers, but it's not bringing in new viewership. You're not getting this new generation of boxing fans. You're not getting this new generation of baseball fans. And the numbers bear that out, to be honest, because I know a lot of people like to argue. Don't get me wrong. I research all of this before I come out here and just start talking into a microphone. Statistically, baseball is going down in viewership. You can also look at the stands. That kind of helps. You can also look at the TV ratings. That helps a lot too. Boxing, the same way. Anyways, I don't want to argue about views today. But I enjoyed Max Kellerman when he talked about the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder fight because he is very knowledgeable when it comes to boxing. And I like my analysts to be knowledgeable. I like them to fill their brain pan with the analytics. I like them to literally walk me through things that I can't look up myself. If I can Google all of the things that they're saying, I'm uninterested. I want them to dive deep into their analytics. Why do you think Deontay Wilder is going to lose to Tyson Fury in the trilogy fight? And then he lays out, I think that Tyson Fury's footwork, especially off of his left foot, when he leans and gets the 1-2 counter, but whatever that is, I love the fact that when analytics dive into, and I call them analyticers, I don't know what the official title is, analysts, there it is. But like Max Kellerman did with boxing, like Nick Wright does all the time, and Colin Cowherd at times. But I like when they dive into the analytics, they walk you through the what, the how, the when, and the where, and it makes things more interesting. And I think the reason that Max Kellerman was failing so much when he filled in for Skip Bayless is for the simple fact he wasn't Skip Bayless. See, whether you like Skip Bayless or hate Skip Bayless was a polarizing, argumentative host, which went well with Stephen A. Smith, who is a polarizing, argumentative host as well. See, Max Kellerman comes in, and guess what? Max Kellerman's not going to sit there and argue with you about a whole lot. In fact, he agreed with Stephen A. Smith quite a bit, which is not what people want to see. The only reason these shows get views, the Skip and Shannons of the world, the Stephen A. Smith and whoever the heck his new host is going to be now that Max is gone, the only reason these kind of shows were getting viewership is for the simple fact that people tune in to watch the other person argue. I say water, you say fire. I say breathe. I don't know what the opposite of breathe is. Don't breathe. I'm struggling today, guys. Goodness gracious. My brain's not... I didn't fill my brain pan, apparently, with normal human knowledge today. But that's why people watch Skip and Shannon. Shannon talks about LeBron. Skip hates LeBron. And that intrigues people because people just want to be... People want to be in the drama side of everything, right? It seems like you can't just turn on a sports show and listen to good analytics. You can, and that's honestly why I like First Things First with Nick Wright. And that whole crew is... Chris Broussard's on that show. Chris Broussard's one of my favorite analysts right now as well. And that's because they dive in, they have actual real conversations. They give the why to why they believe it, as opposed to just saying dumb crap to get people to argue for or against. But what Max Kellerman did is he wasn't divisive enough to fill the shoes of Skip Bayless, so that wasn't all on him. I can't give all the viewership, the down viewership of Max Kellerman, all to him. He had a tough void to fill. But what I don't like about Max Kellerman is Max Kellerman tends to get very political as an analyst. Now, I am a sports host. I am not a political activist, not a political show host. This isn't a political podcast. I've said it. I made TikToks about it. I am a sports talk show host. I am not a politician. Keep politics out of my sports shows. When I turn on ESPN, I want to see the highlights from the games. I want to see Skip and Shannon argue. I want to see what they're saying about LeBron James. I want to see injury reports. I want to see fantasy reports. That's it. Max Kellerman tends to try and be on the right side of history all the time, which ends up landing him in a lot of people's bad spots, and that's why he landed in my bad spot at number 5. Politics do not belong in sports. I will always argue that. Because either way, whether you're for that politics or against that politics, you're polarizing your audience. Let entertainment be what it is. Entertainment. Let politicians, let political shows, let political talk shows, let political news shows be what they are. So for that reason, Max Kellerman landed at number 5 for me, for the simple fact that he's way too political for my taste. At number 4 for me, give me Bill Walton. Now, Bill Walton shows up on Oregon Ducks games a lot, just to, I guess, ruin my night. So, Bill Walton is, for those of you who don't know, basketball guy, all right? Bill Walton is like Gary Busey if Gary Busey was 6'8", and was a sports analyst. And if, for those of you who are like, who's Gary Busey? Stop what you're doing right now, because that is a perfect analogy, and Google Gary Busey, and then Google Bill Walton, and then just watch like a 30-second clip of each one, and it's basically the same person, except one's really tall and played basketball, and for some reason is considered a sports analyst and an NCAA basketball, men's basketball expert, and the other one's an actor that was in a tragic accident that took a bunch of drugs and is now a crazy person. Not far off, by the way. Neither of those guys, not that far off. But like I said, as an Oregon Ducks fan, I have to put up with Bill Walton. And most of the time, because I'm an Oregon Ducks fan and the time difference is so crazy, I'm having to watch basketball games at 9:30, 10:30 at night, start time for me. So these games are getting over at 1 in the morning, and the problem is I'm having to put up with Bill Walton throughout the entirety of that game. Now, the best way to describe Bill Walton, if you've never seen him at his craft, if you've never seen him as a busy bee, so to speak, he is a crazy person who is trying to be fun, but instead it comes off as super obnoxious and you want to strangle him by the end of it. It's very hard to describe. So he's one of those guys that he's a wild personality. He's got a big personality. You know, he likes to run up into the stands. He likes to make weird jokes. I watched him, and this is not a joke. I watched him do an Oregon Ducks game. This was at like 11:30 at night. I'm exhausted, but as a dedicated Oregon Ducks fan, I stayed up to watch this basketball game. And I watched him say, "Quack, quack." And I'm sure you can YouTube it out there. He said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," for honestly 5 minutes straight. And like, I'm gripping my fist right now thinking about how much I wanted to punch him in the face. He literally, Oregon was up by like 7 points, and we went down and we'd score, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's a bucket for the Ducks. Quack, 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 quack. On defense, quack, 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 quack. Look at the Ducks with a rebound, quack, 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 quack." I mean, he talked like that for like 5 minutes. That is a perfect example of who Bill Walton is. He's crazy. He'll just like leave in the middle. I've seen him leave in the middle of a game, stop like commentating on the game, stop doing his job, and like go get a hot dog from a fan and just come back and be like, and then just eats into the microphone and be like, "Listen, I'm doing my job. I'm just like, what's going on? How does he have a job? Besides the fact it's Bill Walton, how does he have a job? I mean, he's insane. He'll just leave in the middle, if you in the middle of your job got up, went and found a hot dog in the stands and just started eating it in a meeting with your boss would be like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, no, we're going to have you go to an insane asylum." But this dude this is what he does. He makes horrible jokes. He quacks for 40 minutes during games. He is a nutbag. And I don't mind crazy personalities. I would say that I have a kind of crazy personality. So I don't mind people with big, boisterous personalities or crazy personalities. I'm not trying to be the pretentious guy who's like, "You need to sit there. Just give me the facts, Jack." No. I like the fun, the crazy. I mean, College Game Day is the best show. And they're fun and crazy and wild and energetic. College Game Day is the best sports show out there. Like, let's 100% agree on that together. Can we do that at least? But, like, think about Kirk Herbstreit and all of those guys. They do a great job of being goofy and having fun. Pat McAfee does a great job. They're goofy, but they're having fun, and they keep you interested, but they're also still being good at what they do. They're still giving you facts, but they're having fun while doing it. Bill Walton is like the negative version of that. He's trying to be goofy and crazy, which is fine if you're also doing a good job. But when you're quacking for 3 mother frickin' minutes, and I'm trying to watch a game at 11:30, I want to stab you in the neck with a knife. Not that I would ever do that. I'm just saying what I would like to do. Not that I would ever do that. Listen, we live in a day and age where I can get banned for saying something like that. But, like, let's be honest. Bill Walton has zero talent when it comes to being an analyst. And for those of you, I know this is probably a crazy one for you because a lot of you don't get to see Bill Walton in action. Just watch YouTube clips of Bill Walton. You'll want to lose your mind already. Without even watching it, you'll want to lose your mind. I promise you. There's not many people you just can't sit for 4 hours and be around Bill Walton. I can't. It's not that I hate Bill Walton. I tried to like him. I'm like, he's crazy. I enjoy crazy. He's boisterous and wild. I'm boisterous and loud. Like, we should be a perfect pair. Except at the end of the day, I'm still trying to do a good job at whatever I'm doing, and he's just a nutbag who, for some reason, they keep giving him a microphone and saying, "Hey, you should come back and piss Jacob off on Thursday," and he doesn't. So Bill Walton, my most hated at number 4. At number 3, this one's going to be a little controversial, and no, it's not because she's a woman. Doris Burke, because there's a lot of great women analysts out there. I want to throw that out there right now. Women analysts can do just as good as men analysts, okay? It's not about what gender you are. It's about how good of a job are you doing. I give a damn. If you're purple, and you're a woman, as long as you're great at what you're doing, I will listen. If you're pink and you're a dude, more power to you as long as you got a good thing going, you're doing a good job. As long as you're doing a good job, I don't care. But Doris Burke, oh gosh, Doris Burke. Why do I hate Doris Burke? Besides her voice. And her voice is a big one. Just listening to, I swear that's what she sounds like. Doris Burke is the only person that while I was listening to a Los Angeles Lakers playoff game, why she was one of the main analysts during that game, I don't know. She's the only person that made me almost go on to oncoming traffic for the simple fact that her voice was like nails on a chalkboard. Well, you see here, just like, Doris Burke, can you shut the hell up, please? My sister Jen has a wild hatred for Doris Burke, and it is the funniest thing ever. Like, when Doris Burke starts talking, she'll just go, oh my gosh, I freaking hate her. I freaking hate her so much. And when I guess I just never really paid attention until she pointed out how much she hated her. And this has been she's hated her since I can remember. And then once you're around Doris Burke and you're watching her, and she gets shoved onto everything too, by the way. Can we just agree that just because, you've been around doesn't mean that you deserve to do the big basketball games? Because no one wants to listen to Doris Burke on a Saturday night, Celtics versus, Lakers. But my hatred for Doris really, really is just this one thing that she does. Yes, her voice is, oh gosh. But it's the fact that she's not good at what she does. I don't give a damn what you tell me. I really don't care. She's not good at what she does, and she just repeats what's going on the court. The other day, and this is stuff I promise you I'm not making it up, people. The other day I was watching a Los Angeles Lakers game, and Doris Burke, her obnoxious ass voice is coming on the screen. I'm sorry, I'm swearing a lot today, guys. Apparently analysts get me heated. But she just is repeating what's going on the court and then pretending like that's doing a good job. I'm watching the game, and Malik Monk goes for just a bank shot. Just a bank shot from the elbow. And this is exactly, I will go play by play exactly how it happened. So Malik Monk comes down for the Los Angeles Lakers, pulls up, tries to bank it off the glass. It's no good. Okay, end of story. I forget who they were playing. They grab the rebound, go down to the other end, blah, blah, blah. You know how basketball works. This is exactly, and I'm sitting up in my chair so I can do this for you. This is exactly how her brilliant mind analyzed this play. So Malik Monk went up, elbow, backboard, missed it. All right, so this is how this play went. Coming down the court, Malik Monk goes for the pull-up. He's at the elbow. Malik Monk shoots it. It misses glass, goes off the front of the rim. It is rebounded by the other team. Malik Monk was trying to put that ball off the glass, it looked like to me, trying to put that basketball on the hoop, and he was trying to go off glass. It just seemed to be a little strong. It missed off the front of the rim, and it was rebounded by the other team. So not an offensive rebound from the Los Angeles Lakers. Instead, it's rebounded by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They went down to the other end. I think Malik Monk really needs to be careful when trying to bank that shot. You need to go a little softer off the glass, because if you go too strong, it's going to do exactly what it just did, which is bounce off too strong, and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to get the rebound because it's such a long rebound. I swear that is how she analyzes everything. She just repeats what's going on. LeBron James misses the three. Well, LeBron James missed that three. If LeBron James would follow through on his shot, maybe he would have. It's just like, first off, you're telling professional athletes how to play basketball. And if you see her all the time, she does that where she thinks like she's funny, where she'll grab a basketball off the rack and just start dribbling before games, and everybody's like, can you put the basketball down and pick up the microphone and shove it down your throat? Please, Doris Burke, please just shove the microphone down your throat, because listening to your colon produce poop would be a lot more entertaining than listening to Doris Burke talk, because Doris Burke doesn't know how to be an analyst. She just repeats what's going on the court. That is not being an analyst. That is being an ass. Okay, we can agree there. That is just being an ass. If I was just repeating everything that was going on a basketball court, if I would be like, LeBron James is dribbling, there's one dribble, there's two dribble, there's three dribble, oh, he passes to Malik Monk, Malik Monk passes it back to LeBron James is then cutting towards the basket. Like, if I was doing that, you would want to strangle me, but for some reason, we throw $40 million at this lady, and we're just like, do every big game that everybody wants to watch, and then we'll literally listen to on mute because you're doing it. I can't stand Dorisburg. Are you getting this point across, Jacob? I hope you are. And for those of you who don't watch a lot of sports, I mean, it's probably weird that you're listening to an all-sports podcast, but I welcome you. But for those of you who don't watch a lot of sports, just like YouTube Doris Burke talking, YouTube Bill Walton, and you let me know what you think. I love hearing from you. I hear from a lot of you, actually. First off, this program has had, like, I won't go how many downloads, but a bunch of downloads in, like, Australia, the United Kingdom. So we're going global here. Very excited about that. We had the most downloaded program last week, which is just so surreal, so crazy to me that people are actually listening to this. I thank you and love you all so much, by the way. It's super cool. But anyways, for those of you who have an ability to YouTube things, YouTube what I'm talking about, and then let me know what you think. TLR Podcast 615. DM me and let me know. I love hearing from you. I hear from a lot of you, and it's so cool. Now, if you would just follow me as opposed to just writing me, that would be a lot better. Because in order for this podcast to grow, you got to help me grow my social media, TLR Podcast 615. So if you're going to message me, you might as well just smash the follow button, right? We've got extra content at all times. You know, my Take Fives happen every single week. So be a part of that and just follow me as opposed to just messaging me. But let me know what you think. Who if you watch those videos, especially if you don't know, watch those videos and let me know what you think. Give me at number 2, and this one's a very close one between 1 and 2. Number 2, I'm going to go Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith has the elements of all the other ones. He's a little bit political, which, like I said, sports are for sports, politics are for politics, so he does lean on that political side. But given his stance and how long he's been around, I could understand someone like him doing it more than I can a Max Kellerman. But nonetheless, I'm not a big political guy, so keep it out of my sports. He's got the obnoxious voice. This is ridiculous. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This is preposterous. Like, he has that voice, too, where you're just like, oh my goodness, Stephen A. Smith. Like, can you just give it a rest? He goes from 0 to 10,000 in a matter of a like, if you mention the name Michael Jordan, he just loses his mind. You're just like, you know, MJ was the greatest thing that I've ever seen about. Do you understand? And Michael Jordan, this is preposterous. Do you even? And he just goes on and on and on and on. And you're just like, dude, can you calm down? It's 7:15 in the morning. No one needs to hear Stephen A. Smith yell about topics for an hour and a half. So he does have that voice thing, too, that really gets on my nerves. What I hate about Stephen A. Smith the most, though, yes, he's political. Yes, he's got an obnoxious voice. Mainly with the voice, it's not necessarily his tone. It's the fact that he just goes from like 0 to 100, like I said, where he just loses his mind. But the main reason I can't stand Stephen A. Smith is he has... I'm trying not to repeat everything that I'm going to say about number 1. I think a lot of you already know number 1 because I talk about how much I hate this man already. But he has what I like to call drama complex. He has the drama complex where the only thing he wants to do is give shocking headlines. The only thing he wants to do is get people's jaws to drop. The only thing he wants to do is piss a lot of people off just because that brings in the views. It's not necessarily that these are his real views on whatever that topic is. Now, sometimes it is, and sometimes, and this is more than I can say about the first person, but sometimes he'll come in and he'll give you an honest, calmed down version of himself. He does it a lot on his own podcast that he has. He does a much calmer, much more respectable version of who Stephen A. Smith is. But the second he gets to the ESPN, because ESPN is all political, and all they're trying to do is just get views. And how do you get views on shows like that? Is to just be divisive. Is to just say dumb stuff just to make people mad. Is to just run your mouth 1,000 miles an hour. That's what I can't stand. When you say stuff for the simple fact that you don't when you say stuff that you don't believe in yourself for the simple fact of just trying to get a rise into somebody else. You know who does that? Your best friends, guys and gals. That's what your best friend does when he wants to piss you off, is he just says something he knows will set you off. One of my best friends of all time, Seth Thornton. Seth knows what he does all the time. Seth will just say one little thing, whether it's about LeBron James, whether it's about the Oregon Ducks. He told me the other day how Tennessee was the best 4-4 team in the country. And I just tried to argue with him that there's no such thing as the best 4-4 team. There's the best team and the worst teams. They're a mediocre football team. But he just says stuff that he knows will get a rise out of me. He says stuff that he knows will start a conversation between me and him and an argument between him. Just for the simple fact he likes watching that rise. It's like the Joker in Dark Knight. You know, some people just want to watch the world burn. Stephen A. Smith just wants to watch the world burn. My biggest problem is it's not that I don't mind a sports analyst. I don't mind a sports talk show host that's a little divisive. It's not that I mind a sports talk show host that believes in something, truly believes in something, and talks about it with his convictions. I can respect somebody that has a dumb opinion and they mean it truly within their heart, and then they tell that dumb opinion, and then everybody can disagree with you. I can respect that. Stephen A. Smith's just doing it for viewership. Stephen A. Smith's just doing it to literally piss people off. He's just doing it to make people argue with each other, to be divisive. The reason he got rid of Max Kellerman was for the simple fact that he's like, man, I need to get someone in here to cause ruckus, to argue back, to say crazier things than I will. And that's why him and Tim Tebow every Friday get a lot of views. Why? Because he says a bunch of crazy stuff. Tim Tebow's kind of he's already a big personality in and of himself, and most everybody loves Tim Tebow. But Tim Tebow will say some crazy stuff, and it's a good dynamic. But for me, as a sports analyst and a sports talk show host myself, now granted, mine's a definitely much, much, much smaller audience and everything else like that. But I don't mind having a crazy opinion, because guess what? I think LeBron James is the greatest of all time. I can tell you why I think he's the greatest of all time. And actually, that's going to be an episode here very shortly. I'm going to go back and do it again, even though I've already done it before. But I don't mind somebody with a crazy opinion if they truly believe in their own heart of hearts that that's what they think. But Stephen A. Smith he comes on there. Here's the deal. Dirk Nowitzki is one of the greatest shooters that we have ever seen in this game, okay? Dirk Nowitzki might be better than Steph Curry, okay? This brother could pull up from it. He was 7 foot tall. He could pull up from anywhere. Do you understand me? Like, that's the stuff where you're just like, hey, Stephen A. Smith, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter of all time. Can we stop being stupid? Can we stop saying stuff just for the clout? Can we stop saying stuff just for the simple fact that you need viewership? You're going to say crazy stuff for viewership, and you like to watch Twitter go crazy when your show's over. What does he care if a bunch of people on Twitter are tearing him apart? He's pocketing a buttload of cash for saying whatever dumb thing he did on purpose. I just can't respect, as someone who's in this field, I can't respect somebody that just goes out there and says crazy stuff for the simple fact that they're just trying to say crazy stuff. When they know in their heart of hearts they don't believe those crazy things that they're saying. So for those reasons, I'm out on Stephen A. At number 1. Take a second. Can you guess it? Say it out loud at home. I sound like Dora the Explorer. Say backpack, backpack. Or is it swipe or no swiping? She says all that stuff. Yeah, you guessed it. Somebody I've talked about on this program several times. Skip Bayless. So Skip Bayless is the ultimate... I've sworn a lot this episode, so I'm really trying not to swear as much anymore. I don't know what it is, but I got fired up talking about these sports analysts. But not Stephen A. Smith. Skip Bayless. What Skip Bayless's problem is Skip Bayless is Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is everybody's most hated fan. Skip Bayless is most everybody's hated sports analyst. He's most everybody's hated guy. He's short man complex who runs around, is angry because he never got what he wanted in life, and so he walks around and projects that on everybody else. He's the ultimate Napoleon complex. I mean, Skip Bayless was talking about how he was one of the greatest, and this is a story from Skip Bayless's own mouth. Oh, they used to call me Junior Pistol Pete Maravich, and I went to a camp and I won MVP of that camp, but my high school coach hated me, so therefore I never played, and that's why I never got to make it to a high college. I could have played college ball. These are stories that Skip Bayless tells. I mean, he is that guy that at 58 years old is like, man, in high school I had 12 points one game. You're just like, dude, you know that you're 55 years old and no one gives a damn, right? Skip Bayless is that guy. I mean, just YouTube it. YouTube Skip Bayless talks about his high school basketball thing, his high school basketball story. That's the craziness of like, man, I could have been pro, but my coach never let me in the game. It's like, you're 5'6". Unless the NBA was played on Fisher-Price goals, you weren't making the NBA. And he's also that guy that he's a Dallas Cowboys fan and every year's their year. Every year's their year. I'm an optimistic Oregon Ducks fan. I'm an optimistic Bears and Titans fan. For damn sure I'm an optimistic Chicago Cubs fan. I want to hope for the best. I'll pray for the best. Put a bunch of effort into cheering us on. But I understand and realize our expectations and realize our ceiling. Skip Bayless every year is, the Dallas Cowboys are going to win it all this year. How about them Cowboys? Every time they win a game, it's like, dude, they beat the Jets. You know, the Dallas, I hear Dak Prescott's one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. I hear Ezekiel Elliott's still one of the best running backs in the NFL. I mean, Skip Bayless is just that kind of guy. He relives his past. I respect the fact that he supports his teams no matter what, but there's a difference between supporting a team and saying that your team's going to win the Super Bowl. And I know several guys like this, and it's probably the most frustrating thing that I have to deal with being their friend. Not just socking you in the throat when you're just like, I think this is the year that we're going to win it all. It's like you're 1-7. With 7 games left or 6 games left, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. You're not making the playoffs. We could definitely win out. I know several of you are at home going, listen, I know this guy. I know that kind of guy. Is there nothing? The frustrating part is they gave that guy a platform on FS1, and that guy's had a platform on ESPN. So all that, those are different factors of why I can't stand Skip Bayless. Good grief, sorry. I keep thinking of their show that they had on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith versus Skip Bayless. So those are the 2 big reasons I can't stand Skip Bayless. And perhaps the main reason out of all of it is he says crazy stuff like Stephen A. Smith, except he believes his crazy stuff. And I know I said, hey, I don't mind if you say crazy stuff if you truly believe in it, but he believes in it with delusion. Like when he says LeBron James is not a top 5 player of all time. What? Even if you hate LeBron James, and I know several people that do, you can agree that LeBron James is a top 5 basketball player of all time. It's him and Michael Jordan in discussion for 1 and 2. When he does stuff like that, where LeBron James will have a 50-point game and he still finds a reason for LeBron James to be horrible, when LeBron James wins a championship and he still finds some excuse, those kind of guys, those kind of analysts, yeah, they're going to get a lot of ratings. And the problem is he's so Napoleon mindset, Napoleon complex mindset, that he's just going to ride it until it dies. He's just going to bury it into the ground. He's going to make a point and then bury that point so far into the ground that at the end of it, you just give up because you're so tired of hearing him talk. I mean, Skip Bayless is the ultimate troll who believes in what he's trolling about. I mean, he is the best way to describe him. He's an idiot. He grew up, not being the basketball star, but in his own mind said he was a basketball star. He grew up hating, hating whatever and believing the Dallas Cowboys were going to win it all. He talks about how LeBron James is not a top 5 player in the NBA. I can't respect somebody that has an opinion like that. There's a difference in having an opinion that might be a little bit out there or having an opinion that might be a little controversial that you truly believe in, and then having an opinion that is so controversial and so dumb that you know 100% there's 0% chance that he absolutely means that. You know 100% that it is impossible for him to mean that. You do. You know it's impossible for him to truly believe that LeBron James is not a top 5 player of all time, but he does. He does. So when you say something that's so out there, so crazy, so unbelievably wrong that 100% of the world can get behind the fact that that's wrong, and you still in your little Napoleon complex mind believe that you're right, there's just no winning with you. That's the guy that you just uninvite to the parties. That's the guy that you just stop talking to. Because you're never going to get a word in edgewise. You're never going to be right. You can make the best point possible that 100% is based on facts, and he is still going to argue his bullcrap value. LeBron James isn't clutch. I listened to him argue about that the other day. Even though LeBron James has more buzzer beaters in postseason history than anyone, he has like the 3rd most buzzer beaters of all time and all this other stuff. Like, LeBron James isn't clutch. Okay. I'm just done with Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless was the number one reason that I started a podcast. Skip Bayless drove me to this. Sounds like I'm talking about drinking. But I try and watch Skip and Shannon in the morning just because I like Shannon, Uncle Shay Shay, just for the simple fact that Shannon does have a big boisterous personality, and I most of the time I agree with him. But I can't do Skip Bayless. I can't. Skip Bayless is the worst analyst in the history of the entire world. Well, there you have it. Another episode is in the books. My top 5 most hated sports analysts of all time. Let me know what you think. Let me hear your most hated sports analyst of all time. I will repost my favorite ones on Instagram. Don't be afraid to message me. TLR Podcast 615. So many of you message me, and so many of you will comment on some stuff. Follow me and stay engaged the entire time. I love interacting with you all. I really do appreciate it. Let me hear your top 5 most hated analysts of all time and what you think of my list. But here we go. That's Life with Jacob debuts November 17th on, it's Wednesday, next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, I think. Yeah, tomorrow. Oh, it's tomorrow. Wow. It's just, everything's flying by so quick. November 17th, That's Life with Jacob. A Letter to Taco Bell is episode number 1. You won't want to miss it. Check that out. Make sure you share this with a friend. Once again, everybody, I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room.